On this video, I'm going to talk about why we need to bring protein back. And there are 4 different reasons I want you to consider increasing your protein. The first reason that I want you to think about improving your protein amounts is for fat loss. And I know a lot of you come to my channel because you want to lose weight. And awesome. And a lot of you have lost weight. Like, put it in the comments if you've lost weight through either my books or through this channel, because I love how some of you have dropped hundreds of pounds. It's really cool. So, but what protein specifically does is that it is a stabilizer of blood sugar, and it really kills your hunger. So let me explain what I mean by that. Let's go back. Let's put it in the terms of metabolic switching. So what we know is that we want to be able to switch over into the fat burner system periodically, using fasting as a tool for healing. But if this system, the sugar burner system, is like got you up and down and all around with the foods you're eating, and it's not stable, getting over to that fat burning system is very difficult. So when we increase protein and do a high protein diet, we start to stabilize your blood sugar. That makes your fasting lifestyle much easier. The example that I use all the time is beautiful human Todd, giving me authorization to speak about him. He lost 175 pounds building a fasting lifestyle. And what I did when we first started working together is the first thing I did is have him take his standard American diet and compress it all into one eating window. And then once he got rhythm with that, I had him increase protein. And just by doing those 2 things, within 90 days, he had lost 40 pounds. Now, why did that work? Well, I didn't take anything away from him. I just said, eat whatever you want, drink the soda you want, just do it in this eating window, and then let's bring in this really cool macronutrient by increasing protein. And what happened was his hunger started to change. And when his hunger became more stable, what he found is that he wasn't craving the junk he was craving before. So I will continue to say this, that you do not need motivation when it comes to weight loss. You need momentum. And when you pair protein with a fasting lifestyle, you will get momentum so fast. And that is what happened to Todd. A study, by the way, a really cool 2019 study, showed that 30 grams of protein in a meal, so if those of you that like the numbers, 30 grams of protein in a meal caused people's body to burn more calories when they were in a rested state. So if you'd like to sit and burn more calories, make sure you're getting 30 grams of protein with every single meal. Second thing that protein does is it really helps us build muscle. Now, I hope you've heard this over and over again. There's great information out there about how we break muscle down as we age, and that really affects our functionality. And it can be as simple as we just have, as you age, you have trouble like getting yourself out of a chair. You need muscle as you age. It is probably more important than almost anything, especially when it comes to your musculoskeletal system. The other things about protein is that it'll break down into amino acids, and these amino acids will go in and repair injured muscles. So when we look at things like my menopausal women that are losing estrogen, and so therefore they're losing collagen, and so therefore they're ending up with more musculoskeletal injuries, when we bring protein in, we're not just building muscle, but we're increasing the amino acid profile that's helping us repair any injury. So if you had an injury that needed repair, the best thing to do is to improve your protein intake. Okay, number 3 is it improves and helps with brain function. Now, this is really interesting because the research is showing that low protein diets create low neurotransmitter production. Now, your neurotransmitters are these little mighty chemicals that get you thinking clearly, that keep you happy, that calm you. And for, again, my menopausal women, as we go after 40, as we lose estrogen and progesterone, we also lose dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, glutamate, oxytocin, BDNF, GABA. So we're losing 10 neurochemicals, and that will affect our our brain, and that will contribute to things like dementia and Alzheimer's and mood disorders like depression and anxiety. So when is the last time you had a bad day? Did you ever ask yourself, did I eat enough protein? On a depressed day, on a mood low day, go eat more protein because it's going to bring in those amino acids that are going to help you make those neurotransmitters. Okay. Fourth reason you're going to want to bring protein back into your diet, and that's that it really improves your skin health. So one of the largest bodies of research that have been done on protein shows that taking collagen protein into your system, and I'll talk about different ways we can do this in a moment, not only improves the smoothness of your skin, but it will increase the elasticity and decrease skin aging. I'm going to put the link to that study in the notes here so you have it. But when is the last time that you have looked in the mirror and gone, oh, wow, wow, I'm really getting, the wrinkles are really accelerating. Did you translate that into, am I getting enough protein? So in an era where we're leaning to toxic fillers like Botox and the junk that people are putting on their face, when did we stop and ask ourselves that maybe I just need to increase my protein? Here are some of my favorite sources of protein. And I've got vegan options and I've got animal options. So hopefully my plant-based friends have not left this conversation. So my favorite is grass-fed beef. And let me tell you why. Grass-fed beef or lamb, and this would even be grass-fed dairy, has beautiful array of the right omegas. So it has omega-3, 6, and 9. Our fatty acid profile is so important for cardiovascular health, brain health, joint health, skin health, all the things. So I like leaning into those proteins, knowing that I'm not just getting the amino acid surge that this kind of protein can provide me, but I'm also getting the right amount of fatty acids. Second one that I really love, if you can find it, is wild fish. Now, specifically salmon because it has a high omega profile, but I also am experimenting with some of the fattier fishes like sardines and anchovies because of the vitamin D that exists within them. And remember, especially as we age, we need more vitamin D. So let's go back to a food that's going to give us amino acids, going to give us fatty acids, and it's going to give us vitamin D. Those of you that are spending tons of money on supplements, how about we come back to some of the great food strategies here, like eating some of the wild fishes that can support our overall health in so many ways. Okay, other ones, free-range chicken, turkey, and poultry. I love those foods because what they do is they also increase tryptophan, and tryptophan can get converted into serotonin, which will keep you happy. So it's a real big one for neurotransmitter production. And then for my friends that are plant-based, legumes, chickpeas, beans, lentils. Lentils are some of my favorite, and I'll tell you why. Lentils have an amino acid in it, a profile that is rich in leucine. And leucine is that amino acid. When you get enough of it, it opens up all the sensors for all the other amino acids. So you want to be eating more of these leucine-rich foods, and lentils is an incredible one. Tofu. I am determined to bring soy back into the conversation. I do not get how years ago we started to villainize soy as being this endocrine disruptor, and yet we've permeated our system with all these toxic ingredients like BHT and BHA, and we have slathering them on our body, but people are staying away from soy. Soy is a phytoestrogen, and it is really important for bringing up your estrogen levels. And for my menopausal women, we need to do everything we can to bring estrogen levels back up. So let's bring soy back into the conversation, please. And make sure it's organic. That's key. But tofu, other forms of soy can be great. And then the last couple ways I like to get protein in, Greek yogurt. I often break my fast with Greek yogurt. Put some berries in there. That's phenomenal. And then nuts. But make sure your nuts are raw, because the raw nuts are going to have more enzymes in them that will help you break it down. And when you are eating protein, I feel like you should follow 2 rules based off the science that I've seen and making this easy so you can put it into your lifestyle. So one is 30 grams of protein per meal. The research says, yep, You want to have at least, don't fall short. I'm a big egg fan. Egg has a lot of leucine in it too. But in order to get at least 30 grams, I have to have 5 eggs. And believe me, I've done it. Like I've done it where I've soft-boiled 5 eggs and eaten them after a workout. So make sure you're looking at your amounts. So, and then the second thing is I do believe 1 gram of protein for every pound of body weight that you are is a really good way to approach protein. So, and you combine that with, and it's a really good way to clean up the sugar burner system, and you combine it with some of the different styles of fasting I've taught you, and now you have created a stellar lifestyle for yourself that keeps your brain working well, builds you muscle, helps you lose weight, and improves your skin. And I don't know a human on the planet that doesn't want to do all of that. Women over 40. Whew, we have a lot that we need to talk about. So let's start with this. I want to I have this vision because when I hit 40, I felt like I was in the best shape of my life. And I was eating 6 meals a day. I loved breakfast. I was the person that carried my snacks around with me everywhere I went. I was eating really healthy. I thought that eating healthy food as often as you can equated to a healthy body. And what I learned is that as I moved into my 40s, that strategy around health no longer worked. And let me tell you why. At 40, what's happening is your ovaries are like, I'm done, I'm out. Like I have given you eggs month after month after month, and I'm gonna make a slow exit now. So as your ovaries start to wind down, it's not like it happens over the course of a month or even a year. It takes for most of us about 10, 15 years for our ovaries to start to undo this miraculous job they've been doing for so long. And so in that process, what is happening is they have to hand over the job of making stress hormones, specifically estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, have to hand that job over to your adrenal glands. Now, think about this for a moment. If you are a rushing woman, if you are type A, stressed out, if you are an over-exerciser, if you're already not getting sleep, if stress is already at its max, and now you decide to take on fasting, which produces a cortisol reaction temporarily, you are likely to tank your estrogen, your progesterone, and your testosterone because your adrenals cannot handle the extra stress. So we've got to do this differently. Okay, so the first thing I want you to understand is your physiology. Know these hormones are, the ovaries are kicking out, but I also want you to realize that you're going to be more susceptible to stress now than ever before. What you used to get away with at 35, you can't get away with at 45. You are going to have more adverse reactions to stress than ever before. The second thing that I want to talk about before I go into what I consider one of the best variations for women over 40 is that it's really important that you know your hormones. And there's a couple of ways that you can understand where your hormones are at. First is if you are perimenopausal and you still have a cycle, the minute day 1 hits, I want you tracking your cycle. So even if your cycle is every 60 days, every 90 days, I want you to track that cycle so that you know when your body's trying to make progesterone. So first thing is know your physiology. Second is know your hormones and where your hormonal profile is. And then the third one is really the meat of this video and something you can step into immediately. I have a new variation for the post-40-year-old, and it is called a 4-2-1 variation. It is a weekly variation because most women, as they move through their 40s, our monthly cycle is so wackadoodle that we don't know how to time it to the fasting circle. So I want to give you a weekly one. 4 days a week, you're not going to intermittent fast if you thought I was going to say that. You're going to do autophagy fasting. Autophagy fasting is 17 hours of fasting, and you break your fast with fat. And I did a ton of videos on this, and you want to make sure you keep your protein under 20 grams and your carbohydrates under 50 net carbs when you do eat. This style of fasting and eating is considered a detox, like a light detox. Toxins rear their ugly head as we move into menopause. So we need to lean into more autophagy fasting. So in my post
40-year-old variation, 4 days a week, you're going to do autophagy fasting. 2 days a week, you're going to do a very minimal amount of fasting. You're going to do 13 hours of fasting, and you're going to hormone build. So on these 2 days a week, you're trying to raise progesterone. So that the 4 days a week, you're trying to detoxify so that we can help with estrogen sensitivity, leptin sensitivity, many of the things I've taught here. 2 days a week, we're going to work on building progesterone. And you do that by 13 hours of fasting and then hormone building. We do not count macros on this day. We look at things like adding more of the squashes and the beans and the tropical fruits, citrus fruits. Grass-fed beef is great. And then the last day, the 4-2-1. So the 1, you're going to go do a 24-hour fast. Why is this important to the perimenopausal and postmenopausal woman? Is because we have to take exceptional care of our gut. We actually have bacteria in our gut that help us break estrogen down so that estrogen can get into our cells and can start to allow our cells to use it for energy and for functionality. So if you're having hot flashes, if your mucosal membranes are really dry, if you have brain fog, you're not sleeping well, these can all be signs that your estrogen is too low. So we've got to take amazing care of what we call our estrobolome, which is the bacteria that break estrogen down, and the 24-hour fast does that really well. So let me summarize that for you. 4 days a week autophagy fasting, 2 days a week of hormone building with 13 hours of fasting, and 1 day a week of a 24-hour fast. And the meal I would put with that one is a ketobiotic meal where you're keeping carbs under 50 grams and you're leaning into as many veggies as possible.
You want to know the foods that will support hormones? Guess what? I have them for you already. It's a free giveaway. Just click the link below and I'll send you a list of all the foods that support amazing hormonal health.
I want you to remember that your ovaries start to go into retirement. So your whole system, your hormonal system is going to start to slow down. Your ovaries stop releasing as many eggs, which means that you are left with less progesterone, less estrogen. When you are losing estrogen and progesterone because there are less eggs being released, you are not just losing those hormones. You are losing, I'm going to count them right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other neurochemicals. And I'm going to go through these neurochemicals right now. So not only are you losing estrogen and progesterone, but you're losing these 6 other neurochemicals that kept your brain working right. That is 8 neurochemicals. So if you do not feel like yourself anymore, there is a neurochemical explanation. 8 neurochemicals that affected your moods, affected your behavior, that kept your memory in check. 8 of those. This isn't just one, 8 of them are gone. And there are things you can do to bring back these 6 neurochemicals that were stimulated by estrogen and progesterone. And I'm going to walk you through those today. But what I want you to see is this bigger picture of what is happening and why you don't experience joy, why you can't think straight, why you are having trouble sleeping, why you're anxious all the time. It is not your fault. You have lost 8 neurochemicals. Here's how this works. There are 3 forms of estrogen. So you have estradiol, estriol, and estrone. Estradiol is the diva. She has been showing up for you over and over and over again. She is the most powerful form of estrogen, and she has allowed an egg to be released. Every single organ system in our body has a receptor site for estradiol. So think about this for a moment. When you had a cycle, what happened was around day 8 or 9, estradiol was peaking. Maybe around day 10, she hit her peak, which allowed an egg to be released. But it wasn't like she just went away. When she hit her peak, all of that estradiol went into all these receptor sites throughout your whole body. and kept you cardiovascularly well, kept your muscles and your joints in good shape, helped your kidneys and your digestive system and your brain. So when you lose estradiol, you are losing a major stimulator of all of these organ systems. Now, we could easily look and say, well, throw on a patch, and now you're going to bring estradiol back. But at some point, you're never getting the same amount of estradiol. It does not biologically make sense for a 55-year-old woman to have the same estradiol amount as a 25-year-old woman. So even your patch over time, the dosage has to go down. And estradiol stimulated some wickedly powerful neurotransmitters. The first is dopamine. So when estradiol peaked, when she was growing in your body from like day 1 to day 10, and then she peaks during ovulation, day 12, if you had a cycle and if you are perimenopausal and you still have a cycle, pay close attention. You're probably more motivated in the front half of your cycle. Your brain is probably much more focused because that's what dopamine does. It gives you focus, it gives you motivation, and it gives you a desire to go and build a life for yourself, to go and chase a goal, to go and work out. That is dopamine. It is the molecule of more. But estradiol didn't just stimulate dopamine, she also stimulated serotonin. Specifically, the world famous receptor site that's getting a lot of attention right now in the psychedelic world, and it's the 5-HT2A receptor site for serotonin, and estradiol stimulated that. So in this front half, in this follicular phase, or if you've been in ovulation, if you've been following Fast Like a Girl, I call it the power phase 1 and manifestation phase, you were getting a massive dose of dopamine and serotonin that kept you happy. Those are our happiness hormones. Now, it didn't just stop there. She also stimulated a hormone called acetylcholine. Acetylcholine helps you hold on to information. Estradiol also stimulated a steroid called BDNF. BDNF is like miracle grow for your brain and made it so that your brain could create new neuronal pathways so you could learn new things. BDNF is massively powerful to keep the brain sharp as the years go on, and estradiol stimulated that. And she also stimulated oxytocin. This is the most recent thing that I found that is just blowing me away. So check this out. This is how brilliant your body is designed. When you had a cycle, the days leading up to ovulation, as estradiol went up, so did oxytocin. Oxytocin followed estradiol. Okay, well, what does oxytocin do for us? Oxytocin is our bonding hormone. It makes us feel connected to people. So what happens when estradiol goes away? We start to feel disconnected. This is a major thing that menopausal women are going through. They just don't feel connected to their children, to their jobs, to their friends. Like there's a disconnection. It's because as estradiol goes away, so does oxytocin. So one sex hormone, or as I love Dr. Gersh says, one life hormone, made 5 different neurochemicals go away that kept you alert, focused, happy, and motivated. So if you're 48 years old and you're hearing this for the first time, I want to reach out and give you a hug, because I want you to realize that it is not your fault that you feel disconnected. It is not your fault that you're struggling to hold on to information. It is not your fault that you can't read a book like you used to read a book and hold on to that information. That is a neurochemical shift that happened, and I want to give you the solution for it. But first, I want you to know that I see you, I hear you, and we're going to walk this journey together, because so many women are feeling so lonely and so out of it in these years because of this neurochemical loss. This is a large reason why women kill themselves. The most common time for a woman to commit suicide is 45 to 55, because she lost all of these happiness neurochemicals with the exit of one sex hormone. That we need to scream from the rooftops. So with that in mind, here's what I want to walk through. I'm going to go through each one of these neurochemicals, and I'm going to talk about what science is saying that we can do to bring these neurochemicals back online. Dopamine. Dopamine, think of it, it's the molecule of more, but it's what drives you to a goal. So I've heard a lot of women say they don't feel like working out anymore once they go through perimenopause. Yeah, their dopamine goes down, so their motivation to work out may be less. Some of them, the motivation to work out relationship problems might be less. So there's a lot of places that dopamine shows up for us. The trick with dopamine is that you want to create momentum. You don't need motivation with your life or your goals. You need momentum. This means you want to create small little wins. So if you are trying to lose weight and it feels like a daunting task and you're in your perimenopausal years, we need dopamine to get you to the gym. So maybe you can't get to the gym, or maybe you can't get out and walk, or go work out for like an hour. So just allow yourself to go on a 5-minute walk. Just put your sneakers on, go on a 5-minute walk, and when you come back in, high five yourself and acknowledge that you made it out the door with your sneakers on your feet, and you got out and you went and did something good for you, even if it's 5 minutes. So if you're struggling with a task, chunk it down. Stop trying to take it on in this big totality because you don't have as much dopamine. You got to create new dopamine hits for yourself. The other thing to remember is that dopamine loves novelty. So switch things up. You might have to switch up your routine where maybe you're fasting in the morning. Maybe all of a sudden you fast in the evening. Maybe you are driving a certain way to work every day. Now it's time to drive a different way. Maybe you need a new gym to go to. You got to go find dopamine. Will love it if you can go into new experiences. So go and find those new experiences to keep your motivation up. Okay, second neurotransmitter that estradiol stimulates is serotonin. So when we hit a goal, so I recently bought a new car. I love my new car. It's the nicest car I've ever driven in my entire life. And when I got in it, the dopamine was just filling my brain. It was like, wow, this is a dream come true. And that dopamine lasted maybe a couple of weeks. Every time I got in, I got another dopamine hit. And what ended up happening was after a few weeks of driving it, I didn't have that euphoric dopamine hit, but I had that yummy serotonin hit that was like, I love this. It didn't feel like I need to go get more because dopamine always wants you to go get more. This is why, like when you lose weight, if you lose 10 pounds, you have a momentary like, woohoo, and then you're like, but maybe I need to go lose more. That's dopamine. But serotonin should come in, and serotonin should say, you did a good job. Let's enjoy this. And serotonin is sort of that fulfilled happiness you get where you just are riding along feeling good. And it doesn't feel like you need more. It feels like you got enough, and this feels wonderful. That's serotonin. So dopamine gets you to the goal. Serotonin pats you on the back and says, job well done. Enjoy this for a moment. Estradiol stimulated serotonin. A 9-hour fast was enough to stimulate serotonin by stimulating the 5-HT2A receptor site is what, and I assume it's doing this through ketones. The study didn't say that. But it stimulates this receptor site that upregulates serotonin and gives you an antidepressive effect.
Okay, check this out. I have a free fasting guide for you all. It's free. And it's going to teach you all the basics of fasting. It's going to teach you how to kill hunger when you fast, which is really cool. And it's going to show you how to break your fast, among many other things. All you got to do is click on the link below and enjoy.
So small doses of fasting. It doesn't have to be a big dose. It can be a small dose, a 9-hour dose, and you can have that antidepressive effect. That's huge. This, I get asked a lot, like, well, what's the number one thing that menopausal and perimenopausal women should do? And I still stick by fasting, because not only is it going to help you with weight and mental clarity, but it also helps with things like depression, like we're seeing with the serotonin receptor. Well, the second tool that you have is exercise, but not just any exercise. If you want to get more serotonin, intensity matters. The higher the intensity exercise, the more you're going to stimulate that receptor site that will upregulate serotonin. So this is why I love short HIIT training style exercises. It's the high intensity exercise that makes a big difference. And then the third thing we have for serotonin is something newly emerging, and more people are learning about it. And it's microdosing psilocybin. So psilocybin is a mushroom. It's a psychoactive mushroom. When you microdose it, you do not get the psychoactive piece. You only get the stimulation of the 5-HT2A receptor site. And so it upregulates serotonin and gives you a level of happiness, not an over-the-top happiness, a very just contented, lovely feeling. And there is great research out on microdosing psilocybin. There's another, I guess you would call it a psychedelic that many are using or are experiencing, is San Pedro, also has great research without the psychedelics. So that's dopamine and serotonin. Then if we go into acetylcholine and BDNF, estradiol stimulates acetylcholine and BDNF, which is neurochemicals that help us hold on to memory. And so if we don't have estradiol stimulating these neurochemicals, then we've got to find other ways to create what we call neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity is creating new neural connections in your brain. I like to call these new connections baby neurons, that they're like little baby neurons in your brain that are ready for you to train them how to think. They're ready for you to hold on to information so that you can do amazing things in life. I'm a lifelong learner, and so I love learning. And when I started to lose estradiol, losing acetylcholine and BDNF, and I couldn't hold on to information as well, that bummed me out. So I had to go find new ways to create these new neuronal connections, to regrow my baby neurons so that they could start to grab onto new information. So here's what I found. We're back at exercise. HIIT training, high intensity, will increase BDNF, which is brain fertilizer for the brain. So now you're increasing your ability to hold on to new information, and you're increasing serotonin from one 15, 20-minute HIIT training workout, high intensity workout, which is amazing, right? So weightlifting, when you break down muscle, what you're doing is you create a metabolite that goes up into the brain and it stimulates BDNF. When we build muscle, remember, weightlifting, what you do is you break muscle down and the intelligence of the body goes in and builds it back up stronger, which is amazing. It's in that breakdown that a metabolite gets formed that also makes your brain stronger and lets you hold on to information. A really great way to absorb information is to listen to a podcast like this while you're working out. If you want to hold on to this information, if this is like, you're trying to take notes, go back and listen to this again while you're walking or while you're working out, especially if you're doing a high intensity or a weight training, because you're going to get all that BDNF so that you can hold on to the information more. So high intensity training. The worst thing you can do as you go through menopause is keep doing the same thing, being in the same environment, hanging out with the same people, talking about the same things, listening to the same news channels. Stop it. You need to experience new environments. You need to get around new people. You need to learn new skills. It forces that neuroplasticity. And if you don't, now we're looking at dementia and Alzheimer's. You have to go make neuroplastic changes in your brain. I can't emphasize that enough. So if you think about what an amazing day to improve learning and to improve neuroplasticity and brain power for a woman over 40, it would look like a good night's sleep. You wake up in the morning, you do a HIIT training in the morning in a fasted state, maybe you even lift some weights, and then you work on learning new pieces of information throughout that day. And then at night, you get a good night's sleep. So that information could be downloaded into long-term memory. It's that simple. But we have to be intentional about it if we're losing our memory. Okay, and then the last neurotransmitter that estradiol is stimulating is called oxytocin. It's my favorite neurotransmitter, and it's what connects us. And I, again, full transparency, one of my promises to all of you is that I'll always show up the most authentic person that I can be. I'm not going to put on any face for anybody. And one of the things I've noticed as I've gone through menopause is just feeling less connected to people I love. And I realized that it's an oxytocin thing, that I'm lost oxytocin because estradiol has been down. But that doesn't mean I don't need oxytocin. Oxytocin is what bonds us. So there's a lot of ways that we can get oxytocin. Getting out for a hike in nature. Nature will bring down cortisol. Breathing in the air from nature can increase oxytocin. Smiling. So I really, I like to smile. I like to laugh. I like to play. And I have to constantly remind myself to not take life too seriously, to smile at people at the grocery store, to smile at people as I'm going along my life. Because not only am I giving them oxytocin, but I'm also giving myself oxytocin. Another incredible way of getting oxytocin is touch. So I've shared this before. If my kids are around, they're always getting a hug from me. And I always tell them it's for my oxytocin benefit. So I am a touchy person. I hug people all the time. And I used to think of it as a way to connect to people, but now I realize it's how I get my oxytocin, which I love. I also have been leaning more into modalities of touch, like massages. I was at the Six Senses spa in Ibiza, and I got the most exotic massage I could, with singing bowls and all kinds of strange vibrational sounds and crystals put on me, because all I could think was this is going to be really good. It's going to help with oxytocin. So if you have the resources to go and get a massage, I highly recommend it, a chiropractic adjustment, anything where touch is involved in a safe way. And please, this is about safety first, but loving touch can increase oxytocin for sure. Okay, last thing I want to say is progesterone. So progesterone starts going down around 35. And the more stressed you are, the quicker progesterone will tank. So, and progesterone calms you. Progesterone helps you sleep. So, of all the bioidenticals I've experimented with, I can tell you that progesterone's been the most lovely. It's the one that can help me sleep a little bit more. But if I take too much, I can get really depressed. So again, there's a fine line that you got to find your pattern. But knowing that it stimulates GABA, we have a lot we can do to stimulate GABA on our own. So the first is breath work, all kinds of breath work. So 4-7-8 breathing, box breathing. My new favorite app is called Othership. And I do breath work in the morning. I do breath work at night. I love breath work. It is definitely GABA producing. We also know that movement forward, just a walk in nature, will bring cortisol down and stimulate GABA so that it will calm you. Something to the brain when we go out for a walk in nature and we scan the horizon right to left and left to right, we actually are telling our brains, hey, there's no threat. You can relax. And that stimulates GABA. You can relax now. We're running away from the threat. And GABA will come on and calm. Think of dopamine as the exciter, is look at what we can do. Oh my gosh, there's so many great things out there. And GABA is the one that's hey, we got to calm down and relax. So that's kind of how the two of those work together. There's also great research about yoga, and because it combines breathing and it combines movement, and that not only brings cortisol down, but it also stimulates oxytocin and it stimulates GABA. And then if you do it in a community, you're getting even more oxytocin. These 6 neurotransmitters were all stimulated by estradiol and progesterone. And when you lose estradiol and you lose progesterone, if you are not intentional about your daily habits, you will lose these 6. And then you will mentally struggle. So leave me a review, find me on socials, let me know if this was helpful. These are just the beginning. They are just the tip of the iceberg of what you can do to bring back these neurochemicals in your life.
If you love that video and you want to dive into more of the information I have on this channel, go to this video. So if we're eating the same way all the time, then we're going to get stuck and we might actually gain weight.